Peace, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of On Tilt, the state of Black mental health and policing in America. I'm Julius here with Miss Dannielle Brown. How you doing, Mama Brown?
I'm doing well, Julius. It's always good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I cannot complain. Good to see you too.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what's that echoing. Is that me? I don't know. You hear the echo, Julius?
I don't. You sound good.
Okay, this show better let us be great today.
Yeah, you sound good. You sound good. Well, before we get started, we always like to do our moment of silence. So let's take our moment of silence for those who are not with us. All right. Thank you all for joining us. We are back. Miss Danielle, in our planning meetings, we've been going over a lot of stuff. We got a lot of different things to talk about. June is Pride Month, so we want to make sure that we honor, uplift, and celebrate folks in the LGBTQ plus community. It's a lot of amazing souls, amazing human beings, and amazing things happening around the globe. So we want to make sure we honor that. It is also Men's Health Month. So we are right off of the heels of Mental Health Awareness Month. And we do want to talk about Men's Health Month as well and some things related to that. And we'll probably end this conversation talking about some really, really problematic and important news that came out of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County related to District Attorney Zapala and just him continuing to just be a complete knucklehead, idiot, bad human being, you name it. So we're gonna have 3 segments today for y'all in today's show, a little something different. But we just have a lot of talk about. We want to make sure we touch it all. So let's start with Pride Month, Miss Dannielle, and I think you wanted to kick us off with something.
Yeah. We just came off of leadership from a president that basically, if it was Pride Month, he probably would have tweeted. Being Pride Month, he probably would have tweeted something so ignorant that would have made all of us just, So thank God that we under new leadership and that we have a presidential statement that was released by President Biden that kind of kicks off Pride Month with the proclamation. So I think we should start this show just by simply reading what Biden, his proclamation to the LGBTQT community. It says, now therefore, I, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and the laws of the United States, do hereby proclaim June 2021 as lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Pride Month. I call upon the people of the United States to recognize the achievements of the LGBTQ community. And I love that he put a plus there because we know that it's a bit broader than just the LGBTQ community. To celebrate the great diversity of the American people and to wave their flags of pride high. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand this first day of June in the year of our Lord 2021 and of the independence of the United States of America, the 245th. Joseph R. Biden Jr. A fitting presidential statement recognizing Pride Month. And believe it or not, out of all of this, I love the plus sign, because that shows that there's yet still room to grow within this proclamation. And I would like to show off in honor of my son, Jamal. I got him one. I have one. We have our rainbow crystal. Beautiful. Great energy. My son is a part of that community. He's a joy to me. I love him. He is an incredible human being. And so I am so grateful. He's a great reflection, not only of himself, but he's also a great reflection of the spirit of Jaylen, the spirit of his grandmother, the spirit of his ancestors. And I just wanted to give a shout out to my son and in honor of this month and my support.
Absolutely. And Miss Dannielle, I think it's so powerful that you brought that proclamation into the conversation, right? Because we know 45 would have I mean, I can't even fathom just his like words or how he would have showed up, and how just dismissive and ignorant and hurtful and harmful. No, actually, I can imagine, because he showed it and he lived it every day of his presidency. Now we haven't, at least I haven't really heard too much about him or from him as of late, which is
he banned from everything.
I was gonna say I'll be good if that continues, right? So I'm okay with that. So one thing I want to bring out from Joe Biden's proclamation is that there's a flip side to that coin, right? And we talked a little bit about this as well. You have almost what we saw with the Black Lives Matter movement, right? Like it became very trendy to start talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then turned into anti-racist. So you have people coming out of, I mean, you never heard before standing up, right? And I always say it's hard to stand up in a room of 1,000 people when you're the only one standing. But if everybody's standing, you're going to look around and you're just going to say, well, I guess I'll stand up too, right? I'll stand up for this cause or this movement. So I think it's easy and it's trendy to also to put a flag up, right, or a sign in your front yard and that sort of thing. But the reality is that LGBTQIA plus folks are still being marginalized. They're still being oppressed. They're still being silenced. There are literally legislators and politicians and people in the world that are trying to erase folks from this earth because of the way in which they show up and embracing their full personhood and humanity. And to me, I know, right, Biden in his office doesn't want to come out and lead with the oppression and right and say, well, here's what we need to do. But I'm just wondering what you think about them raising the awareness and saying, hey, here's this proclamation. And then on the flip side of that coin, the oppression and marginalization specifically for Black and brown LGBTQIA plus folks that you and I also talked about, right? More specifically with Black trans women.
One of the things that, in looking at Biden's statement, beyond the proclamation, he also paid honor to, the Pulse nightclub in Orlando and the tragedies that came out of that. That's a gay nightclub that someone went in and shot up, and a lot of people lost their lives in the LGBTQIA community. And one of the things that Biden also said is that, the bullying and, he actually does start off the proclamation, believe it or not, was the last thing he said. He started off talking about, the other side of the coin, per se, and recognizing that we still have a long way to go in embracing everyone, however way they identified themselves, however group they want to, belong to. That is not, of course, we don't want anybody to belong to the KKK. But healthy groups, and being able to be prideful of whoever they are and not have to face injustices with employment, with education, with going to the bathroom, with, getting married, with insurance companies. I mean, the list goes on. And one of the things I like that Biden says is that, we are not blinded to the ills and the ill wills sometimes that this community face. And so I like that he paid homage to that. I also like that he made a statement that he said he made sure that the LGBTQ community was recognized in the presidential administration. That it was important that this, the employment was, or the highest offices was held also by someone from that community. So, I mean, look, is Biden perfect? You will never have a perfect president, according to the fact that you talking about somebody being in a leadership role over America, we're the only country that probably is as liberal as we are, without being our, disciplined for saying some things that we say for free speech, or, just, being able to have a little bit more freedoms than most countries have. So I'll take this from President Biden after coming off of what we came off of. But I do like that he did recognize the flip side of the coin. But let's talk about the flip side of the coin, because this is great, but yet we still have a long way to go. And I think that is worth, us being able to speak about today with our audience.
Yeah, I agree, Miss Dannielle. And as you were talking, a few words that came to mind that I think we said earlier, right, are ignorance, being hurtful, being harmful, not being educated. So when I think of, and that's what I think of when I think of 45, and I think of the majority, if not, I'll leave it there, the majority of folks that follow this monster of a man, there's a lack of education, a lot of ignorance, right? And what's the saying? People fear what they don't understand, hate what they can't conquer. I guess now I'm quoting Nas lyrics from a Nas song or something.
We should have that playing in the backdrop.
From his "Hate Me Now" song. Mm-hmm. But I say that to say, just because people don't look like you, walk like you, talk like you, believe what you believe, so on and so forth, it doesn't mean that you have to fear me, right? Because I'm different from you. You don't have to hate me because I'm different from you. You can even misunderstand me, but when you break everything down and strip it down to its simplest form, you're gonna get a human being at the end of the day, right? So for me, that's where I get it's just mind-boggling to me that there are legislators and politicians in these deep-rooted racist areas of the country that actually, it's not mind-boggling. I shouldn't say that. I know that that's like the nature of folks in these areas, of some folks, white Republican leaders that are like, they don't want to honor the full humanity of folks and that show up as their true selves and their whole selves. And to me, it's like, if we are going to celebrate and honor and uplift folks from all walks of life, we got to do it all across the board. You know, we can't be picking and choosing and saying Black lives matter, but Black trans lives don't.
Absolutely.
Like,
That doesn't make sense, does it?
The other.
Mm-mm. You're 100% right, Julius. Because you know what? Even in Black Lives Matter, do you know they also, you know, some of them don't even take the time to embrace the LGBTQ community as well. So you got subgroups of subgroups. And so it is a problem. You know, even with Black Lives Matter, I like what you mentioned earlier of how trendy it was, or it is, to put Black Lives Matter in your yard. And, you know, of course, I live two places. I live there in Pittsburgh. I live here in Washington, D.C. And I tell you, it's so many white people who have Black Lives Matter in their yard, a lot more than, you know, and I know, you know, who homes in my community that are Black, you know, being in this community as long as I have. And they don't have the signs. Not that they don't, you know, Black Lives Matter, but I guess we figure we Black, we don't really need to, you know, you should, look, we've been telling you this all our lives. We was born into Black Lives Matter. But I think we had a conversation on another show, which I said these same Caucasian brothers and sisters or allies, or, you know, however, they will not invite you. They have not invited a Black person to their dinner table in their homes, or expose their children, who a lot of them go to predominantly white private schools, to go to the playground in a community outside of Georgetown, per se, if anybody familiar with Washington, D.C., or upper Northwest near American University. And some of these communities now that are kind of like your rich white community, you know, families live. You know, they're not bringing them on down the street a little bit to a playground somewhere in Northeast, Southeast, or, you know, they're not exposing their children, but they sympathize because of their coworker, or they sympathize because they have that one neighbor in their neighborhood that's Black, and they like, oh, I feel for them. Or a lot of them are entrepreneurs. They're employees. They better have a Black Lives Matter in there. We're making them rich, you know. So that's, to your point. I'm happy you said that. You know, that the same thing that for the LGBTQIA community. You know, it's not trendy just to say that, you know, you support them, but yet you're marginalizing them at the same time.
Absolutely. So just to make sure we stay on track, y'all, we will be, it's Pride Month, so we hope to have some special guests to chat with us, to continue to uplift and make sure that folks have a platform to share their truth and talk about their struggles and their work. Because, right, we talk about Black lives, Black mental health. Unfortunately, LGBTQIA folks encounter the police, Black and brown folks, at a high rate. Black trans women are continuing to be missing and to be brutalized and murdered all across this country. It is a problem, and we need to start celebrating folks, to start loving on them, to start honoring them, and we want to do our part here throughout Pride Month, and not just speak on it. We want to actually take action and put some action behind our words. So keep us on track here with our second segment. We talked about it being Men's Health Month as well for June. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, Julius, as a Black man, what does that mean to you?
I'm yield this part. Look, Look, I'm looking down, and I don't have the part to be able to identify with. So you go ahead.
So I would, I think it would be interesting to hear your perspective on as a Black woman, on what that means to you. I think about, my journey, even with just eating. I'm currently on my vegan journey, and I'm in no way perfect with it. But for me, it was like, I'm 37 years old. I'll be 38 next month. I'm in my mind, I'm like, I'm getting older, but I still have my elders that are like, oh, you're young. But then I got young people that are like, dang, you're old. So it's like a weird age, but it's also an age where when I wake up in the morning, and I go to get out of bed, I start to feel, you know what I mean? Like my bones are starting to feel a little bit different.
Look, I'm 12 years older than you. I can't identify with you right now. Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
So I mean, and it's I'm becoming more aware that I'm not invincible, right? I think for a while, even when I go to the gym now, as opposed to when I used to go when I was in high school or in college or even right out of college, it was a different kind of an experience for me. So in my diet, right, I was eating whatever I want, and then I get to this point where little things, right, start happening, right? My eye starts getting problems with my eye, problems with my feet, like all these different things, challenges with my mental health. And I'm just realizing that as a Black man in my health, as I'm approaching 40 and getting into my 40s, like I want to be around, like to possibly have kids with my wife. I want to be around to like see my nieces go on to college. I got a niece that just is about to graduate actually tomorrow. I got a niece that's graduating tomorrow, and another niece that's going into middle school. Like I want to see her grow up and graduate. I got lots of nieces and nephews, so I want to grow old. And the decision to go vegan, and also I recently stopped drinking alcohol. That was a thing that was called to my attention by my wife during the pandemic. We talked about this, right? I'm not just going to get a bottle. I'm getting something brown. I'm getting some clear liquor. I'm getting some wine. I'm getting it all and setting them all up. And I'm drinking, multiple drinks because that's my release. That's my release of dealing with all the stuff you deal with as a Black man in the pandemic, with the mental health stuff, the racial stuff, all the things. So I'm like, well, let me just pour up, because that's what we do. I would go to the bar and I say, give me a double shot of Henny and two Bud Light bottles. Like that's how you start the night off, right? But now I'm just like, I want to feel better. Like overall, when people say health is wealth, like it really is. Health is really wealth. And my mom's a diabetic. My dad has had multiple mini strokes and heart attacks, and I'm like, I wanna break that cycle. Like I want to be the person that breaks that cycle in my immediate family. So if my wife and I are blessed enough to have kids, I'm introducing them to kale and tofu and quinoa, things I never saw ever growing up. I didn't know. I couldn't tell you what kale or quinoa or tofu or any of that stuff was when I was growing up.
Beyond Burger, that's my favorite.
Yes.
Right? Love. What they call it? Some places call it Impossible Burger.
Yeah.
Beyond Burger, whatever. Like that is absolutely my favorite.
Yeah. So, when I think about my health as a man, I'm thinking of my mental health. I'm thinking of my physical health, and also my spiritual health. I was on a Zoom yesterday with a brother from Sacramento, California. He's doing some mental health work out there. So we were talking about, how we could collaborate and things like that. And before, I'm a very spiritual person. I don't consider myself to be religious, but I'm very spiritual. I believe in God. I believe in a higher power, and I have a faith that all things happen as they should. But I don't know about y'all, but I've been out of touch with my spirituality lately. I've been like the hustle and bustle of everything and the strain and stress of everything. I've been talking to God, but it's been like, all right, thanks God. Like it's just been real quick conversations, but not intimate. And he's before the end of this Zoom, he's like, you want to end with the prayer, brother. And I'm like, yeah, I do, right? But it took me aback because it was like somebody was calling me into a space of being intentional about focusing on my spiritual health in that moment, right? And I took that as like a sign from God saying like I'm here and I'm gonna give you this reminder, this like tap on the shoulder that it's not just your financial health as a man, it's not just your physical health and your emotional health. It's also your spiritual health. Like for me, the spirituality is the core and the foundation. So I could go on and on. I know this is our second segment. I do want to, hear from you, Miss Dannielle, as a Black woman, as a mother, and in your how you think about family and your relationships and interactions and bonds with men, and what that means to you in terms of supporting their health.
It's as a mom, and I actually did a post today and I on Instagram, and one of the things I mentioned in my post, I said, I love being a mom. And I also enjoy and love being a wife. However, I was in an unhealthy marriage that had to come to an end, which I'm so grateful for. But I have men in my life right now that I absolutely adore and love, and when we talk about men's health, I'm always, hey, what did the doctor say? Did you go to the doctor? Because that's one of the biggest obstacle for men I found is making and keeping doctor's appointment and following up. I don't know. It just seems like, as women, we always say we put ourselves last, but when it comes to men, and it appears, now I'm a woman now, I don't know, but it appears that men tend to put their health on the back burner as one of the last things that they sometimes do for themselves. So I don't know, you probably can speak better to that, but I as a person who loves Black men and love men, period, and this is men's health. My thing is that even if you don't do it all year round, how about taking or putting a benchmark or pin right here on June and say, you know what, June is going to be the month that I be kind to myself, that I will make my doctor's appointments, I will follow up, I will change my lifestyle, I will become vegan if vegan is necessary. And if vegan is not an option, then I will cut back some of the food, the high cholesterol food, the high sugars, the high, salt. And, like they say, a small difference is a big difference. Cutting back on just some things is a huge difference. I tell you, being on a hunger strike has not only physically changed my body and what I'm able to digest, but mentally, I don't look at food the same anymore. So, yeah.
I want to speak to what you said about the doctor's appointment thing, right? And holding the doctor's appointments. I have always struggled with that in my adult life. And I've been working through that mentally, like why is that? Right? I think, and I'll just speak for me, right? There's a fear, right? This fear of, I talked about in this recognition of like I'm not invincible. So for me, there's this fear of when I go to the PCP and every other doctor, you get all your stuff checked up. Doctor comes back in. All right, here's what we got, right? And there's this fear of I don't know. I guess just me coming face to face with your possibly like the reality of your mortality, right? Like it's one thing to know that I'm not gonna live forever, but it's another thing to know if I do have any ailments and then take the necessary precaution and steps to support those ailments. And it's a completely different thing to have that information. And then now how do you own that? And it's wild to me because the mental health piece, I'm like, yeah, I'm like I'm golden on that, right? Why am I not? And I agree with you, Miss Dannielle. I do see this not in all Black men, but in a lot of Black men that I have encountered and engaged with. They're like, I'm straight. How do you like I'm good. Like I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm healthy, right? It's like, how do you know? Like because I feel good. That's not an indication of your overall health. You don't know what's going on with your vitals. You don't know what's going on with your cholesterol. You don't know what's going on with your pancreas, right? You get colon cancer and blood like the rate at which Black men die from colon cancer and just the speed at which it attacks the body is like, so getting ahead of that is so important. But yet and still, like I like to indulge, right? So I still indulge, right? I'm not a 100% vegan. I have a vegan lifestyle, but every now and then I'll still get that urge. I'm like, I want the things that I know are bad for my body. Mm-hmm. I know for a fact if I put this stuff in my body, it's not doing anything good for my body, but it is doing something good for me psychologically in this moment. It's emotional eating, and I feel good now that I'm eating this soul food meal that's just filled with salt. And I mean, right, and I'm drinking the sweet tea. The cup is this big, and half of it's filled with sugar. You know that sweet tea.
Well, you just came back from down south, so I know you had that sweet tea.
Look, we went when we went on our vacation. It was before I did my vegan stuff, and so we got some pictures of some wild food. And my wife is like, "I'm gonna post this," and I'm like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm not staying true to my vegan journey because we ate. You know what I mean? Like
I know you did.
We couldn't go down south and not eat,
right? And alligators.
Yeah, right. We ate good, and it's like I like to think about balance. I like to think about. That's why I like when I said I'm gonna go vegan. I'm like, all right, there may be moments where you eat something that is just not vegan, right? So if I want to have a piece of chicken, I'm gonna have a piece of chicken. If I'm going 6 days out of the week and then one day I'm gonna eat not eat vegan, I'm okay with that. If I'm gonna go, whatever, 30 days out of the month and that last day or 29 days, then the last day I'm gonna treat myself. I'm gonna give myself that space and that grace. But
you're managing, Julius, and it's moderation. Most people can't even get to that level of self-management. That's powerful.
Yeah, that has become the key for me, right? So it's not solely about the food or the alcohol. It's about me being a master, of my body, in my spirit, in my mind, right? Of being no, I gotta have it. And it's like, no, you actually don't. You want it because it's making you feel a certain way, or you have this narrative, right? So when I think about men's health, and particularly Black men's health, we just been so accustomed, right? We're accustomed to the things that we eat at cookouts. We're accustomed to these habits, and we start to think like, nah, like I can't give it up, or I can't do that. And it's like, well, have you really tried? Like, have you really, really disciplined yourself in a way where you're like, you know what, I can do it, because you can do it.
But you know, that speaks to the mental health piece that I also wanted to mention, you know, with men's health. This part I know is one of the, you know, so you talked about colon cancer. There are a lot of silent killers for both men and women. So that's alone, you can feel good today, but your body could be already, you know, deteriorating because it has not reached the point where it has been bought, it has come out. Like there's no blood in the stool yet. You know, there's no heart attack, stroke yet. And all of these are byproducts sometimes of, you know, diabetes, heart disease, you know, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, you know, etc. And that's why they call it the silent killer. That's why screening for Black men of all ages and races is important to get those screenings, and they offer them free. That's the crazy thing. You can go in there and give them an avatar. Say, my name is Pluto from the Pluto planet. You know, get the screening at the very least. If you don't even want to tell nobody, get it for yourself. But mental health, you know, in Black men, you know, that right there is another silent killer. You know, a lot of people who take a lot of suicides, if you check the data, are men and males. Males are one of the highest rate of individuals who commit suicide. So mental health and other high profile, very emotional crimes, you know, crime of passion, you know, things like that, anger, a lot of who actually will, you know, Black on Black crime, you know, a lot of that are male right now. I mean, we're running a close second, but a lot of that still is being led by males. So we have to pay attention to the mental health and back to the LBQT community and draw a comparison with males' mental health as well. There's not, and I think you mentioned one of our former conversations where a friend of yours said that, you know, they have been privy to places where, you know, there's clearly no services for LBGQT communities when it comes to mental health. Clearly, we're not also focusing on men's mental health sometimes either. I mean, but that's across the board, but we're talking about the highest group of need. And that's where these individuals fall into.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is a good time for us to segue into our final segment, transition to our final segment, and talking about, I don't know if this monster is quite like 45, but he's definitely like got 45 tendencies.
They cousins.
They're cousins.
You know, everybody say that's my cousin. They cousins.
We're talking about District Attorney Steven Zappala here in Pittsburgh, and if you haven't read it or heard it yet, you will at some point. But just a quick little refresher or overview. There's a Black attorney that basically called out systemic racism within the criminal justice system in the courtroom to a judge while being there and advocating on behalf of his client. So in saying that, this information somehow gets back to Steven Zappala, the district attorney that we've been trying to vote out for a long time. Zappala then sends an email that says for this Black attorney, do not grant his clients any plea agreements, no plea deals for this Black attorney's clients. So why is that
crazy?
Why is this problematic?
Why is it? That's crazy.
It's probably I want to bring this article up that I sent. I shared with you yesterday, Miss Dannielle.
Yeah, it was so good. I reposted it with my own comments.
So it's problematic for a number of different reasons. But what I can think of for me off the top of my brain is, right, if you even call attention to the fact that this institution of justice is oppressive and racist, this is what you can face. Now, as a Black attorney who practices law, now your clients are in jeopardy of not getting the justice that they deserve. That, like, they say you have your day in court. Zapala is basically saying, nah, like, after your day in court, like, if you got this attorney, and I imagine, I don't know for sure, but I imagine that this attorney probably has a large number of Black and brown folks that he represents.
Yeah.
So now you got Zapala trying to silence him and trying to predetermine the outcome of this Black attorney's clients. For a whole myriad and host of things that they may be in court for, right? Like, I can't even make sense of how problematic and ridiculous this is.
It's crazy. And look, I just want to always like to tie things into other things. The LGBTQIA community were, I believe, since my time in Pittsburgh, were one of the first communities to really expose this mayor for who he was, when he literally invited several of the protesters to his doorstep for a conversation, while at the same time unleash police on these protesters who were protesting peacefully. He just didn't like what they were saying, but it was still peacefully. No protest, in my opinion, is meant to be comfortable. So yeah, the neighbors was kept up a little longer than what they should have been kept up for, whatever. But I just wanted to make that point that, the day of reckoning is here. The day of change that's needed is now. Certain people, from what I understand, and I'm not qualified to speak on it because I always like to pay homage to the space that I'm a newbie to the Pittsburgh area. So I'm very careful about, where I interject myself. But from what I understand, to the best of my knowledge, that certain people have been in place way too long. And this system has been operating, which I have been exposed to, way too long. And I am happy that this exposure is taking place right now. I am concerned. Where do we go from here?
Wow. Let me pull this from the article. It says 5 days later, after this comment was made by the attorney, Zapala emailed his deputy prosecutors calling the attorney's conduct unprofessional and convoluted critical diatribe. Zapala's email then added that no plea offers are to be made concerning this attorney and his clients, and that withdrawal of any charges must be approved by the front office. So,
which is him. Let me make everybody clear.
Right.
That's who your front office is. All right, go ahead.
So, right, again, I'm thinking of Black and brown folks. I'm thinking of Black and brown folks who identify within the LGBTQ plus community, who are unfortunately having to encounter the criminal justice system here, specifically in Allegheny County, and something in a Black attorney, again, who likely would be representing some of these Black and brown folks, and then you have this district attorney who's putting this into motion, right, into the atmosphere, is just so problematic that, again, if you even so much as speak out to say a system is systematically racist, this is what can happen as a result of it, right? Like
isn't that bold?
This can result in, right, and let's like stress this out a little bit more, right? What could it result in? It could result in harsher sentences for Black and brown folks.
Yeah.
It could result in other attorneys, Black, green, brown, purple, whatever, saying, I'm not about to step up and advocate or even give any inkling that I want to try to fight for the racial justice of my clients, right? So there may be something that I know needs to be said to advocate and do the best legal work I need to do for my client. But if I feel like they're not going to get the justice they deserve, then let me just keep my mouth shut and not say that. And that could even cause more harm, right? So now you have, I'm no expert in this area, but maybe there was an opportunity to get a, 2 to 4 years, and now because you're not bringing certain things into the conversation, it's automatically going to whatever 5-year minimum or 7-year minimum or whatever the case may be, right? And now you're talking about more time that Black and brown brothers, sisters, mothers, cousins, uncles are away from their families, away from their kids. They're not earning, and then we being Pittsburgh, we still tout that we are the most livable city, one of the most livable cities. Like,
yeah, but while Black women are, you see the article on how many Black women, Black families are leaving Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. But I want to say something to your point real quick. You mentioned all the ramifications of what could possibly happen as a result of Sapolo's I'm gonna call it proclamation. His proclamation. How many law schools do we have in the city of Pittsburgh? A lot. And very good law schools, may I add. What about the precedents for your future attorneys, that are watching the political scene play out? When you're blatantly, saying that's almost like a precedent. You're saying, it because of this is going to be the way, the procedure, right? And the procedure is, before, it may be that one attorney, but that one attorney represents a lot of attorneys. Don't get it twisted. When someone says something about one, you better think also about yourself as well and include you into that equation. But so if he says it about him, you got your future African-American students in law school looking at this and saying, wow, the mayor of the city of Pittsburgh got that much power.
The DA, the district attorney.
The DA of Pittsburgh, sorry. I messed up earlier too, see?
No, but that was applicable with or the old mayor, outgoing mayor's stuff. Still not alive. Yeah.
But yeah, so the question then is, well, what is the judges? How are they weighing in on this? What do they have to say about all of this? Have they chimed in yet? Or are they a part of the system and they agree? You know, because it does affect them. They presiding over these cases.
That's look, we only got 10 minutes left. It's gonna have to be another conversation. So as a disclaimer, my wife is a social worker in the public defender's office. So she is advocating with for clients with public defenders to get the best possible outcome for folks that are have allegedly committed crimes, right? And sometimes it's not alleged, but even if they did commit a crime, they're representing the public and trying to make sure people have their day in court. The best information is presented to try to get them the best possible outcome, right? So there's that. And in some meetings that I've been a part of, way back when, right, I'd be a part of these little like working groups and meetings where we would try to say, all right, how do we engage with judges, the attorneys and the judges, to talk with them about the significance and importance of mental health and how that impacts the people that come before them in their courtrooms. You would think you were trying to get in touch with the president, right, with Obama or Biden or Michelle Obama. Like, it is from my perspective and what I've tried to do, it's like it's impossible to engage with a judge. They're like these mythic,
absolutely.
Like, so I'm like, to me, that is a problem, right? That we can't. I don't know if this would even make sense for One Hood or somebody, maybe even some of the work, Mama Brown, that you're doing, like let's and I'm not talking about Mick Pappas, Lisa Middleman. I'm talking about this, the slate of 8 that folks were advocating for to get in the court of common pleas. I'm talking about some of the other judges that we know have been problematic in their spaces. Can we get them in a conversation, in a meeting, in a room, and say, here are our concerns. Here's what we need you to understand about the amount of power that you have and how all these other things in the community play into it. It's like, how do you even make those kind of conversations happen?
One of the benefits of belonging to a sorority is that, you have connection to judges. Matter of fact, I have a line sister who is a judge, and she's so down to earth. I won't say her name because she's mythical, but she's so down to earth, and we talk, and I don't talk to her as often as I would like to, but when I tell you, these judges are just regular people like us. But here lies the difference. I guess we all probably would find ourselves, at this impasse if it was any one of us. There's your regular self, then there's your political self. And I think as a judge and in those roles that makes them mythical is because of the context of making sure that you don't engage in things outside the courtroom that makes you political, that makes you religious, and that makes you racist or opinionated, when it comes to racial discussions, or makes you, partial to any one particular group. So I think it's based on the subject that makes them mythical, but not them, the person. So the question is, how do we have engaged in them, whereas we can separate it being not about LBGQT community in mental health, Black men in mental health, whatever. Even though that's unfortunate, but how can we just engage about mental health and start right there? And then we can take from that, and then we can break it down in our own communities for our own selves and how we can take that information to help our people. But what you're saying, Julius, is can we just engage? I mean, God darn, can we just engage? Like, can you take a stand and say in my courtroom, which some judges have, we will not allow X, Y, Z? And can that be publicized? Why does it say isolate? I'm going to tell you, Mama Brown had her share of judges. If I told you the list of attorneys and judges I had to endure these last 10 years. But one of the judges that I'm fond of was my divorce judge. I mean, he was so down to earth. I felt like saying, look, let's just go have a drink after this. You know, he knew the law, but he was just that down to earth. And he was pro me because he knew I was a good one. I was a good girl. Look, right. He was pro me. But no, he knew the law. He knew the context, but he didn't come across as holier than thou. He didn't come across as I'm the judge. I got the gavel. Everybody, it was mutual respect. When you come into my courtroom, this is my domain. Just like if I was to go in your office, Julius, for business, I'm going to have to respect your domain. So I had to respect his domain, but he also respected that we are normal people coming, asking for fair justice, rendered fair justice. And I think when you are able to meet people at that level, using your skills and talent as a judge because you studied this, you're a subject matter expert. That's how you went from attorney to being a judge. Then, you're able to then say, I can identify with my community and keep certain things separate, but not isolate myself and be mystified by the very people, some of them who voted me into this position.
Absolutely. So, Miss Dannielle, we got about 3 minutes left, and I know we had a little bit of a different show today. We talked about 3 very, very important topics, right? We talked about Pride Month. We talked about Men's Health Month being June as well, and we talked about this situation here in with Zapala and the DA, him being the DA. You have any final thoughts on any of those? Any call to action or final reflections you want to leave the people with?
I think all 3 subjects, believe it or not, are relatable. I think you can take any one of the subjects we talked about and draw a comparison and make it relatable to any one subject that we talked about. There are men in the LGBTQIA community, right? And in the LGBTQIA community, there are attorneys, there are legislators, there are judges, and in the, when we talk about the DA office, we talk about how their decisions affect these other 2 categories. So the call to action for me is get to be knowledgeable about what's going on in your community. Meet your neighbors. The LGBTQIA are our neighbors if they are not your family members, if they're not your employees or your co-workers. We, all the pronouns, we're all one and we're everywhere. And let's embrace everyone everywhere. And let's start not to live by fear, but these are great people. Great people. We are great people. And we deserve to be for you to get to know us before you judge us. That's what I say. And I say we. No, I'm not a part of the LGBTQT community, but I'm a part of the LGBTQT community because I'm a mom, a proud mom of a son who's in the LGBTQT community. And so, and when it comes to racism and biases and prejudice and, injustice, I'm a part of that too.
And I'll leave us with kind of piggybacking on what you said, Miss Dannielle. I think when you said we, that's right, because we is to me is humanity, and I think that's really what we've been talking about with honoring and uplifting Pride Month, honoring and uplifting Men's Health Month, and just health overall for Black and Brown folks, and talking about this issue and problem with the DA that we see so much in so many cities and so many courtrooms and so many offices with elected officials, that the humanity isn't there. So when we say we are a part of the human, right? Being a human, but also knowing that there are many intersections that we need to honor and we need to uplift and not overlook that, because right when a Black trans woman goes into the courtroom, that's a different experience, right? Especially knowing that this kind of rhetoric and action is being taken by our district attorneys. This isn't the only place that kind of stuff is happening, right? Exactly. So I want to end by just saying, like, humanity, and we'll talk a little bit more again about Pride Month. Throughout this month, we'll have some special guests. We'll talk a little bit more about men's health as well, and then we'll continue to bring attention and awareness to any issues that are happening locally that we really need to pay attention to that impact Black mental health and policing. So.
And I'm sure we'll have some more follow up, on this whole Sapalo and this whole situation. So I'm sure that might be a whole month segment of a 3-part segment.
Right, absolutely.
That might be the whole month.
Shout out to Renee. Shout out to Arlette dropping in with us. We appreciate y'all today for making time. Until next week. We'll see y'all later.